So the recording has been started. Stuart, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Daniel. Good afternoon, and thank you to everyone for attending today's webinar with LieberLieber and SDC Systems. It's 2 p.m. UK, 3 p.m. Central European time, so we started at the allotted time. I'll just make some very brief introductions and a small amount of housekeeping, then we'll dive straight into the webinar detail. So I'm Stuart Parker of SDC Systems. We're based in the UK, and we're the UK resellers for LieberLieber products, also for Inland Software's Codebeamer product. And that's significant given it's the ALM and requirements management tool where LieberLieber provide a connector to link Codebeamer with Enterprise Architect. As you already see, the session has been recorded. And on the screen there, you can see my contact details along with Andy Pont as the engineering manager at SDC. So we can also help with any services requirements that you have for Inland, Codebeamer, ALM or requirements management in general, as well as the LieberLieber products. You'll see on the screen that we also have Daniel from LieberLieber who will be delivering the majority of the presentation. As usual with these things, you can click the Q&A button at the bottom and leave messages. If we see something that's particularly relevant to a point that Daniel's discussing, we may answer it as we go through. Otherwise, we'll collect all the questions at the end and cover in a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. So please feel free to log any questions as they come up, as Daniel presents, and we'll do our best to deal with them. So I think with that, Daniel, I'll hand back to you to dive into the presentation.
Okay, perfect. So I'm Daniel Siegel. I was raised as an enterprise mobility guy. I was doing handheld scanner solutions for large parcel organizations, but always I was kind of the tool maker. So I got heavily involved into developing solutions based on modeling tools. And at the moment, my main involvement is in model-based systems engineering. I'm a member of the ProStep IWIP, which is a German automotive organization, workflow forum and implementer forum for exchange of systems engineering data. I'm deputy assistant director at the INCOSE for standards. I'm involved with the OMG for more than 10 years now, and I also involved in the German chapter of the INCOSE. So what does LieberLieber do? It's very simple. We target companies manufacturing safety relevant cyber physical systems. Most of them build some kind of autonomous vehicle, but it's all other stuff as well, from lawnmowers, self-driving lawnmowers, to cars, to spacecraft. This is our typical target audience, but also we have banks and insurances leveraging our technologies for their line of business duty. Here is some references from automotive who uses our tools. I think Veoneer is especially interesting because they use the combination of Enterprise Architect and Inland Codebeamer we provide, but also Volkswagen. And on the Asian side, we have Subaru, Daihatsu, Alpine using our tools. Also, we have quite a nice reference list in defense. I want to name General Electric Aviation or Raytheon, especially, or Thales. In the US is using LemonTree, one of the products we will show today. So why do we talk about MBSE and Agile? It's basically the cost pressure, the innovation pressure, and the complexity and the norms are getting more and more crazy to fulfill. And so there is also constant change. So we need better ways to develop safe and secure cyber physical systems. And as you can see from the icons at the bottom, it's people building X-ray machines, satellites, airplanes, cars, trains. They all have basically the same challenges. This is an example from automotive, where you basically can see all the artifacts you have to deliver for a safety critical automotive system. And it's very obvious that it's not really possible to deliver such an amount of integrated artifacts without having models that will render those artifacts. So I think one of the cases where you can clearly see that the norm is a big driver to move people into MBSE. In the automotive case, it's even now there is a new rule by the UNICE that you need to do V&V based on modern systems engineering principle for anything safe, for anything self-driving, which basically means modern systems engineering means MBSE, model-based systems engineering. So it's coming also into the laws, not just the norms, that we have to apply MBSE for certain types of systems. So typical solution strategies to get the job done is that you introduce model-based systems engineering, and of course you need an advanced configuration and change management. And on the other hand, you also want to have agile development also in your systems engineering. And this is something where we very often see that people struggle because their tools do not provide the same flexibility and dependability that they are used to have, that they have in the software engineering departments. So why modeling? I know maybe for some of you this is a bit an early start because you already know it, but this webinar was tailored at people that might not have yet modeled in the past, so that's why I show it. In this case, it's a UML model, not a systems engineering model, but it doesn't really matter. The key of this chart is that you can see we can create links, traceability links between a class, a state machine, and a set of requirements. And I think if I would write a book about MBSE, it would always be you have to start with the requirements. And why the requirements? Because you need them to build the traceability along your architecture, your engineering efforts. And why do we use models? Because a model is not just a diagram. A model is a graph in a repository. And the diagram is just one view, a human readable view on the same model. On the other hand, it's always important with models that they also have to be machine readable to do the integrations, to be able to render artifacts out of the model. So it's really key to understand from the very early beginning that a diagram is just a representation, one view. And if you delete an element from a diagram, it's not gone from the model. And this is really important to understand and always to remind yourself and remind your colleagues about this. And I said graph before, but I didn't show it. And this is the types of graphs of trees you get with those models and the connections we have seen before on the first chart where I had links, trace links between requirements and software architecture. And one example I really like, or how I would explain modeling to my grandmother, is from the Nato architecture framework. Not necessarily fully MBSE, but you can have a nice take on it. So what they do is they structure complexity into small and understandable parts to be able to do analysis on them. And this means when they build a vessel, they split it up into functionality groups and capabilities. And later on, they do an analysis. This is a German slide because it's from the Bundeswehr. They do analysis. So they have an operational capability, for example, some kind of radar capability. And then they have services that use this, that provide features to this capability. And in the end of the architecture, they have physical components. Now what you can do is you can make an analysis if, for example, an antenna fails, which of your operational capabilities you will lose. And this is exactly the types of things you can do with models. You can understand your systems better. You can break it down into small parts and more understandable chunks. As Stuart mentioned before, our preferred MBSE tool is Enterprise Architect by Spark Systems. LieberLieber also has certain capabilities with other MBSE tools, but if you ask us which tool we prefer, we will always answer Enterprise Architect, and obviously we have the most stuff built around it, and we have the best know-how using Enterprise Architect. When you look at the market for MBSE tools at the moment, I would say in non-political RFQs, it's basically always the same two that will end up on the short list. One is Enterprise Architect, and the other one is a French one. And this is basically where customers make their decisions. But as I said before, it all starts with the requirements. And I think 2 years ago, we were looking again at requirements management tools that are strong in our market and where it would make sense to build a state-of-the-art integration with the modeling capabilities. And we ended up deciding for Codebeamer by Intland because it also supports Git and an agile work style. So it was very clear for us that this is the requirements management system, a modern requirements management system that we prefer and that fits our typical customers very well. What you can see here is the requirements broken down into elements, and those are elements that I can also reuse in my model later down the road. So I want to start from the tooling perspective with our Codebeamer connector, and it has the capability to move elements from Codebeamer to Enterprise Architect and back. The idea was to create a future-proof integration, and believe me, I have done ALM to modeling integrations for maybe 10 or more years. And in this product, we tried to put in everything we know and how people want to work. And the main business driver is always create and share traceability, to link your requirements with your architecture, to link your requirements with your behaviors. And this is really cool. In the future, we will also work with Intland on having common baselines and a more integrated versioning between the ILM and the modeling world. So what is the typical workflow between requirements engineering tool and modeling tool? The typical workflow is that you can import requirements. I have to warn you though, in most cases, you only import the requirements and not necessarily the traceability links that have already been created in the ALM system. In our case, we bring also the connections between, for example, customer and system requirements into the modeling world, which gives a lot of extra benefits because you have the full information available also in the modeling solution. And then the export from the modeling tool to the requirements management tool is like a step 2. Not everybody does it. In our case, we can even move the full architecture into Codebeamer, including all the traceability links that have been created in the modeling solution to have the full picture available in the Codebeamer solution. Something that is of value, for example, if you are in a medical space, that you basically have your truths for your audits and so on, everything in Codebeamer, and can neglect the modeling tool for your regulatory work. So here's some highlights. We can import, we can export, and you can navigate from one tool to the other. Something I shall not forget to show you in my demo, because this is the best practice how to integrate ALM tools with modeling tools. You do not bring over the full information. You do not do synchronization on the same element. But once you double click on the element in the modeling tool, it will open up in a web browser and I can modify it in Codebeamer right away. So the next topic we had on our rather tough agenda is the configuration management. And this is very important for the modeling as well, that you have a standardized way how you do your configuration management to be able to do the systematical tracking of changes that appear. And most important, when you want to spell the word agile, you also need some capabilities to create branches, to be able to merge and all of this nice stuff, which is sadly or luckily for us, not so common in the modeling environments. So our approach as LieberLieber is to reuse stuff that works well for software engineering, and we are pushing using MBSE with Git for Agile MBSE for a while now, and this gives you great capabilities because you're able to branch out and also reintegrate stuff you created in branches into your model in other branches. And this is the key idea. One of the things that has proven to be a best practice with our MBSE customers to follow a process that is called Git Flow, which is basically feature branch-based development, which means if I have to add a new capability to my warship, I create a feature branch, I design the change there, and when the customer signs off on the changes, I move it back to the main branch, just how you would do in software development. And another big driver for LemonTree, the solution we have in store for enterprise architect and version control, is the safety critical norms. And in this case, it's a quote from a customer, the IE 61508, which is like the mother of several of those norms. If we look into the detail of the norm, you can see very clearly that it requests that you have all your documentation in a version control system with a revision index, and you need effective measures of version control. And this is sometimes not so easy with modeling solutions. And this is exactly where LemonTree steps in and where you can use it to branch out, like in this example. And here you can see the LemonTree logo introduced. And LemonTree enables you to bring back the changes from your branch into your main line. And therefore, we can support scenarios like platform development, like in this chart, or you can use it for your supply chain. You can send a part of a model to a supplier, and you can reintegrate it later using LemonTree. Or you can work, as I mentioned before, with a process like Git Flow and develop your systems in a feature branch-based manner. And what we provide as LieberLieber with LemonTree as an add-on for Enterprise Architect is the capability to do optimistic version control. To be able to do optimistic version control, which you can see on this chart, it basically means I change something, my colleague can change something and check in after me, and there will be a conflict on the model that needs to be resolved. And conflict always sounds very bad, but if you talk to software engineers, you will find out that the conflict is a daily routine for them. It's something super normal. The alternative that you can do with Enterprise Architect standard features, you can use a pessimistic version control. Pessimistic version control means you have to ask for the permission to get a part of the model under your supervision. You change it and you have to return it back. Nobody else can change it in the meanwhile. So this, this optimistic version control approach is also one of the enabling technologies for any type of agile MBSE. You can also use the diffing capabilities of LemonTree to review changes and reintegrate them into the product at the later stage. It's basically all the same. So once you have this capability to different merge models in a proper modern fashion, you get all of these bonus features. And branching is really important because the branching enables you to stay in line, to control your product in a proper way. And you can do parallel development. You can develop a variant for Volkswagen and one for Daimler, and at a later stage decide which improvements you did for Volkswagen make sense for the Daimler project as well, and so on. And I think what is the DNA of LieberLieber is always to reuse existing tools wherever possible. And so this Git Flow based on Enterprise Architect with LemonTree is really a very good fit for us. This one we can skip. Here is some of the highlights of LemonTree. You can use it to different merge enterprise architect models. You can model versioning. You can do integration into version control system. Typically, I only say Git, but it's also Subversion or PTC Lifecycle Manager. There is a wide variety of tools where you can integrate LemonTree with Enterprise Architect. And I talked a lot about LemonTree. This is what the UI looks like. So you see your model like you did before with the project browser tree, and you can also look into details on your diagrams. So now it's demo. I stopped my screen sharing for a second. And the screen will be shared again. So as we said, everything starts with requirements. So the first thing we will look at is Codebeamer. And in my Codebeamer, I have a demo project with several crackers. I have a system requirement specification, which is basically part of the requirements that is structured into subcomponents. And I have a modern requirements management tool where links are created between the elements. On the other hand, we have the customer requirement specification, which is important for you to see because we will deal with those later. The next tool we will look at is Enterprise Architect, and I will open up a model, a power window controller, a typical automotive example. And you can see my systems engineers have created a model that describes the power window, that describes the system context, and so on. And we already imported a first set of requirements from the Codebeamer, this system requirement specification. And interestingly, I have to move a zoom window real quick. You can see there is already links between the high-tech, high-torque sensor and the placeholder. So what could a placeholder be? A placeholder is created by our tools if something is missing, has not yet been imported. And as we can see, the customer requirement specification has not yet been imported from Codebeamer. So I'm going to show you that right now. You can define a mapping in a custom UI, but I do not want to go into this detail right now. So I just click on import from Codebeamer. It connects to my Codebeamer instance, informs me what it's going to do, and it will import the customer requirements into the solution. And interestingly, the placeholders are gone because now the real elements have been imported. So what you typically would now do in this scenario where the job is to create traceability between your system architecture and your requirements. You put requirements on the diagram. You can also do it in a tabular fashion. 1 second. And you go to your toolbox. 1 second. And we create realization links between the blocks and the requirements. And this is basically the typical job you do after you import your requirements. You map them to your architecture so you can do analysis. In our case, we also have the capability, as I mentioned before, that I can now export this architecture, our system architecture, into Codebeamer, which is basically the same process as you've seen before. I go here and say Codebeamer connector, export to Codebeamer, and the whole architecture that we built, including the diagrams and the traceability links we created, will now be exported to Codebeamer. And in a second, we'll go back. I show you something in between. I can go here and say Codebeamer connector, open in Codebeamer. This is exactly what I mentioned before, that you open up the element directly in the tool and do not go back to change stuff in both tools. If I want to change a requirement, it's always to be changed in Codebeamer. So something doesn't seem to be very well with my demo at the moment, but we do not panic. We try, but it seems my Codebeamer instance is under fire to some extent because it's not answering anymore. Anyway, I think you get the idea. And the gods of demo have not been super nice to me because my Codebeamer instance somehow decided to be not available for me anymore. Let's look into the next topic, which is the integration of version control with modeling tools. And the first example I'm going to show you today is something that can be very, very hard with those tools. I have to kill this right now. Can be very hard with modeling tools is if your boss comes to you and asks, hey, sorry, can you tell me what we changed in the model 2 years ago? If you use LemonTree and Enterprise Architect, this question is rather simple to answer. In this case, I show it with SVN. I have the history of the model available in SVN. I can see, okay, my colleague Uwe Brunflicker changed something in my model. I select the two models, my last commit and his, and right-click on compare revisions. And the version control system does what it does best. It gets the files, and LemonTree provides a visualization of the changes that have occurred. In this case, I know he changed the state machine, and I can clearly see the green state is a new state he introduced, and he had to change some of the state flows to account for that. So if you do this in an XML-based way or with other tools, it's really cumbersome and time-consuming to give a good answer. The other thing that we discussed is obviously that we like to use Git. And I think for the Git, it's interesting that especially for systems engineers that tend to say, oh, this is software engineering nerdy stuff, we do not want to use it. We built a simple Git client directly into Enterprise Architect that allows you to do basic operations like pull, commit and push, diff, show log, and most exciting for me, you can switch branches directly from Enterprise Architect. It might not work now because I changed the model, but we will see in a second. Yes, it worked. And I can switch branches directly from the Enterprise Architect UI, perfect for systems engineers that do not want to go into all the detail. I can do a diff directly from here. I can commit and push directly from here. So this is one way how to integrate this Git. Or obviously you can also use a Git client or like Git and do the same stuff. The way how we integrate is not super magic and tricky, but there is settings, and basically every version control tool has this ability, and we can define LemonTree as the custom merge tool for EAP and EAPX, which are the models that Enterprise Architect uses. And this is basically how we integrate in various version control systems. And now comes the last part of my demo today with LemonTree and showing a graphical merge of models. I can also start LemonTree standalone with the example models, which I did now. And it will show up in a second. And you can see I have conflicts. And this is interesting. What is a conflict? In this case, a conflict is that in a body of an operation in the model, one guy changed to display set line 1 and the other guy changed to display set line 2. And we have to resolve the conflict. And this is also interesting because that's why we need the three-way diff. Otherwise, we wouldn't know who changed what is changed. And with the three-way merge, we can know that the original thing was display set line 0, one changed to 1, the other one to 2. And in this special case, I can even go here and say, keep it 1. So I can even alter the merged result by hand to fortify my change. If I would want to do something else, I can come here and say, let's use this version. Now it's display set line 2. Or I can go to the top element and say take sub-tree and it will take everything below the singleton display from the B branch. Okay. So this is for conflicts. We have loads of filters like hide graphical changes that will hide all diagrams where only stuff was moved around that basically are not interesting. And now I'm gonna show you the last demo point from LemonTree today. This is the graphical diagram merge. You can see that my colleagues introduced an action shutdown and I don't want it. So I select it and say, okay, let's go with my option without the shutdown action. And now you can see that the control flow is missing. So I simply click on the control flow, and in the same way, I reintroduce the control flow, and that's basically it. We have a merge diagram, and the only thing left to do is I click on Start Merge and write an EAP file that contains the merged model, which is already done. And I can now open the merged model and have successfully merged Enterprise Architect models in a graphical way. Okay. So now I stop my screen sharing again and we go back to PowerPoint. I have bad experience if I do it the other way around. So it needs a little bit of my computer getting to know its new screen setup again, but it's much safer than in any other way I have tried so far. So let's go back to the PowerPoint. So we've done a demo of code of Enterprise Architect, a very short one. I showed you Codebeamer with requirements. I showed you the integration between Codebeamer and Enterprise Architect, and I spent some time on how we manage models with version control with LemonTree. And now I want to sum it up. Basically, that this logic of using software configuration management can enhance your modeling process in a very good way. It gives you the capability to do long-term parallel development of versions and variants using, for example, branching. and we reuse existing tools and workflows, which is also super helpful if you have an audit. If you tell them you use Git or you use SVN, they already will know what you're doing. If you tell them you use a special database-based version control system by your model tool vendor, you have to do a lot of work by yourself. And obviously, interesting for the business, all of these things provide support for functional safety critical norms or other norms, because it's easier to explain what's going on. The key takeaway for today, I think, state-of-the-art team collaboration with models and requirements. There is a consistent development state always available in your version control system, and this reduces the development risks. And you have perfect triggers with the branching to do reviews with peers, help others understand, and introduce others as well. So I think that's it from me today, rather quick and fast. I see we have no questions, which is a bit surprising with the fast pace I did. So I will stop the recording now, and we will focus on questions.